At our so-called family meeting, my stepfather slid a blue folder toward me and said, "Sign power of attorney. It's for love." While my mother stared at the table, I counted breaths, measured the pen's weight, and smiled like a cashier balancing a till near closing. You're watching Revenge Files. Subscribe for a new twist daily. By the time the coffee cooled, I had agreed to sign. By the time dawn arrived, what I'd signed under a lawyer's lamp would be taped to his door by a deputy, a different kind of love spelled with distances, stayaways, and orders that bite when crossed. My name is Caroline Pierce. I'm 36 and live in Sacramento, California, 3 blocks off G Street, in a second-floor one-bedroom with a leaky balcony. I manage rentals for a midtown firm and keep 2 file boxes under my bed, leases and receipts. I inherited a duplex from my dad when he died in 2018. It's not fancy, but the mortgage is modest and the roof doesn't complain. That house is the one thing in my life that doesn't lie to me. My stepfather, Ray Bishop, 64, likes short-sleeve dress shirts and phrases that sound like slogans. He married my mother, Linda, 4 years after my dad passed. Ray runs a home services LLC that installs air conditioners in the valley, or says he does. His business has more magnets than customers. He is the kind of man who says the word family like a crowbar he keeps behind the seat. The blue folder waited on my mom's dining table. It was a Sunday, March 10th, 2024. My mother had set out Costco cake in paper plates because she believes sugar makes conversations behave. The blinds were half shut, and outside her oleander bushes tilted like eavesdropping ants. I'd come because a text said, "Family meeting at 4. Big decision, be loving." When my mother uses loving, there's usually a receipt underneath. Ray slid the folder to me again. "Durable power of attorney," he said. "If anything happens, we can act fast. Equity moves quick. Love is speed." I flipped the pages. The document appointed Ray as my agent for all financial decisions, including real property transactions and banking. My duplex address was typed neatly in a paragraph that also mentioned lines of credit. My name appeared 5 times, my mother's once, and Ray's about a dozen. The notary block was blank. So was I, outwardly. Inside, the dial hit red. "What's the rush?" I asked. Calm voice, job voice, the one I use when a tenant hands me a wad of excuses. "Friday," he said. "I have a vendor deadline. We lock a bulk unit order or we lose it. If we can use a temporary HELOC on your duplex, I can float the deposit. You won't even feel it. 30 days. Max." My mother nodded and patted my hand. "It's for love," she whispered. "We're family. We help each other. Your father would want us stable. My father, who color-coded warranty folders and ate lemons whole, would not have loved any of this. He'd taught me to read the back of a receipt before the front. But I kept my face soft. I made a small show of reading. The numbers sat like teeth. "How much is the deposit?" 25, Ray said. "Vendor wants a wire by noon Friday. Then inventory arrives in 2 weeks. Spring Rush saves the year. So you draw a line of credit," I said, "against my duplex under your signature?" "Temporarily," he said. "We'll unwind it quick. It's a family umbrella. You know, just in case." Family umbrellas, in my experience, are things that don't open when it rains. I tapped the page, then shut the folder and lined the edges together with my fingertips. "Okay," I said. "I'll sign something tomorrow. I want a notary. You can both come." My mother sagged with relief. Ray smiled like a salesman who just watched your pen touch a finance plan. "Knew you'd see the big picture," he said. "You've always been practical." I took the blue folder with me when I left, then slid it into the back of my trunk under a blanket where old floor mats die. The oleander brushed my jeans. On the drive home, I repeated one sentence until my jaw relaxed. Don't fight the performance, change the script. But then, I didn't go home. I drove to a strip mall off J Street where a neon sign said, Lawton and Pike, evening consults. I'd Googled them that morning because the text from my mother felt like the start of a play I knew I had to interrupt. The door chimed, it smelled like coffee, toner, and carpet cleaner. A woman with a neat bun looked up. "Kendra Lawton?" I asked. She stood and shook my hand, early 40s, calm eyes that knew bad paper when they saw it. "You're Caroline," she said. "You said you might come." I handed her the blue folder. "They want me to sign this tomorrow. It's urgent. He says it's love." She read for 5 minutes without speaking. "Lawyers can do that. They can make silence feel like a fire alarm. This is broad," she said finally. "Too broad. It gives him the ability to encumber your property without further consent. There's also no accounting requirement. And there's a gifting paragraph that could transfer funds. I'm not signing it, I said. But I need to do more than say no. Kendra nodded. Tell me about the urgency. Vendor deposit of $25,000 by Friday. He runs an HVAC business, but I don't think he's solvent. He's using my mother to push. He's tried to install himself in my finances before. He's favored the word family like a mallet. Kendra pulled a pad closer. Do you have any reason to believe he'll retaliate if you refuse? Show up at your home, your work, your properties. He escalates, I said. He leaves long voicemails. He showed up uninvited once when a tenant was moving out. He said he could take care of the paperwork and asked where I keep my spare keys. I told him I don't keep spares. He called me ungrateful in 3 different synonyms. She nodded again. In California, you can petition for a civil harassment restraining order if you can show a pattern of harassment or credible threats. It's ex parte. We can file tonight, ask for a stay away from your home, work, and the duplex, and a no-contact order. If he's already talking about your property and there's a deadline, a judge may grant a temporary order. We'll also notify your bank and the county recorder. My mother will be furious, I said. She'll say I embarrassed her. Your mother can be mad and you can be safe, Kendra said. Those are separate lanes. How much to move now? My voice didn't quiver, my hands did. Initial filing and prep tonight, $2,000, she said. Full representation through the hearing, retainer of $4,800. Sheriff Services $40. We'll send a notice to your bank fraud department for free. Numbers call me when they're honest. I said yes. We stayed until the copier jammed twice and the cleaning crew waved. I signed a verified petition under penalty of perjury. We cited texts where he said, "You'll sign because family," and a voicemail where he said, "I'll come by and we'll work it out." We attached a copy of the blue folder with my duplex highlighted. I initialed every page like an athlete tapping a lucky sign before a game. At 11:20 p.m., under a brass lamp, I signed one more piece of paper. It wasn't a power of attorney. It was a request for a temporary restraining order that named addresses and action verbs and drew lines around my life with a pen that knew the weight of ink. Kendra filed it electronically and set a reminder for the sheriff's civil division. We scheduled service for morning, except I still had to drive home through the dark with my heart buzzing like a miswired fixture. I parked crooked, set my alarm, and stacked my 2 file boxes by the door. I called my bank's after-hours line and enacted a security freeze. I placed fraud alerts with the 3 credit bureaus. Each step ate a few minutes and gave back a breath I didn't know I had. Then I slept a narrow, grateful sleep. At 7:45 a.m., a Sacramento County deputy knocked on my mother's door while her coffee machine barked steam. Ray answered in his shirt from yesterday. The deputy asked his name and handed him the papers with the seal. He read the first line, the second, skipped to the bolded orders and said, "What is this?" Restraining orders also spell love. I'd written on a sticky note that Kendra clipped under the paperclip. It wasn't a legal phrase, it was an answer to a line he'd used on me. The deputy didn't comment. He just explained the stay-away distances and the hearing date, April 2nd, 2024, and left. My mother called me 3 minutes later. "What did you do?" she said. "Tears and fury share plumbing." "I followed the law," I said. "He is not allowed to contact me or come near my home, my work, or the duplex. He cannot interfere with my property. I will see you after the hearing if you want. I love you. I am safe." She hung up without the last word. That hurt in a place I reserve for church and photographs. But I didn't call back. I printed 2 more copies of the order and taped one inside my front closet and one behind a kitchen cabinet like talismans against weak moments. One problem: men like Ray don't understand that paper has teeth. By noon, he had emailed me from a new account with a subject line that said, "Let's be adults." He claimed he hadn't contacted me because he wrote to whom it may concern, which is the kind of loophole a teenager thinks is brilliant, and the law treats like fog. Kendra forwarded the email to the sheriff. Violation 1. I kept the message in a folder that I named exhibits because I knew what it would become. He wasn't done. He sent my boss, Tim, a long message saying I might be mentally unstable because I was unwilling to help family. He CC'd a realtor I'd worked with once, and my mother. Tim called me into his office and closed the door. He's a decent man who wears ties with oranges on them. "Do I need to call building security?" he asked. "No," I said. "Yes, maybe. I have a temporary order. He's working angles. He may try to show up. He thinks law is theater." Tim tapped the desk. "We'll put your photo and the order at the front desk. If he arrives, we call the police." "Thank you," I said. I printed the order again and delivered it to the receptionist, who slid it under her keyboard like a sword. Until, at 2:10 p.m., Golden Pacific Title left me a voicemail. The clerk used careful words. "We received an instrument this morning purporting to be a quitclaim affecting your property," she said. "Our signature verification flagged it. It looked like you signed, but the notary block is incomplete and the dates don't match. It's been rejected. We thought you'd want to know." I sat very still in my desk chair and felt both cold and clean. He hadn't waited for me to cave. He tried to jump the line with a forgery. I called Kendra from the stairwell that smells like dust and ambition and forwarded the audio. She swore in a lawyerly whisper, then told me to ask for a certified copy of the attempted filing and the rejection letter. I did. The title clerk issued both by 3:30 p.m. and faxed them to Kendra's machine, like we lived in 1999 and justice preferred old technology. That afternoon, Kendra filed an addendum to my petition with the forged quitclaim attempt attached. She also filed a notice at the county recorder's office called a courtesy notice of potential fraud that placed a red flag on my parcels. Any future instrument had to be presented in person with verified identification, and the recorder would call me before it accepted anything. It was, she said, a speed bump for thieves and fools. That night, my mother texted 3 words: "You ruined everything." I put my phone face down and made soup. I ate it on my balcony while a cat I didn't own stared at me like a neighbor who knows the gossip but won't share unless you bribe her with tuna. I breathed. I slept. I woke up with my jaw unclenched for the first time in 2 days. The next 2 weeks were paperwork, patience, and small mercies. I saved every message. I forwarded every violation. The sheriff warned Ray twice. My boss stood firm. My tenants sent rent on time. I mowed my duplex lawn on a Saturday morning and waved to Mrs. Salazar, who likes to chat about roses and city council meetings. I did not answer my mother's calls when they came in clusters at midnight, but then Ray posted about me on Facebook. He said I'd abandoned family and made up crazy legal claims. He didn't use my name, but he used enough details that anyone who had even grazed our lives would know it was me. Kendra printed screenshots and added them to our stack. Public defamation is tricky and often not worth the paper, but in restraining order world, it helps to show patterns. He posted again 2 days later. He said I stole my father's house. The comments from old neighbors made my throat sting. I took a walk around the block and decided I would not live in the story he wrote about me. Hearing day came. April 2, 2024. Sacramento County Superior Court, Department 35. The hallway smelled like old cinder block and new nerves. People sat with manila folders on their laps like shields. I wore a navy suit I keep for funerals and interviews. Kendra met me on the bench and handed me a paper cup of water. "Breathe," she said. "We're not here to be perfect. We're here to be clear." Ray arrived with a lawyer I'd never seen, and the same short-sleeve shirt from our family meeting, as if uniforms could rewrite facts. My mother sat behind him, small and angry, her wedding band turning on her finger, clicking like a metronome. I did not look at her for too long. I wanted to run to her, to explain soup, nights, and the cat that judged me. Instead, I stacked my papers again and again until the edges made a neat brick. The judge, the Honorable Carla Nguyen, read the case notes. She had a voice like a chalk line, clear, visible, meant to draw boundaries. "Ms. Pierce, you're seeking a restraining order for civil harassment," she said. "You're alleging attempted interference with your property and continued unwanted contact. You also filed an addendum regarding an attempted quitclaim. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," I said. I kept my sentences short and my hands flat. "Mr. Bishop," she said, "do you oppose?" His lawyer stood. "We do," he said. "This is a family misunderstanding. My client was simply trying to help with logistics for a business deal that would benefit the household. There was no intent to harass. The quitclaim instrument was a mistake by a notary my client didn't know personally. He didn't submit it." Judge Nguyen raised a brow. "And yet it bears Miss Pierce's name. An error," the lawyer said. "Sloppy, not criminal. No harm occurred." Kendra stood. "Your Honor, we're not here for charges," she said. "We're here for safety and boundaries." Ms. Pierce received an instrument that, had it passed, would have clouded title. She received emails after a service of a temporary order. She received a third-party smear campaign that targeted her employer. There is a pattern of leverage masked as love. We ask for a 3-year stay away, no contact order, and a specific carve-out that Mr. Bishop not contact any bank, title company, or business regarding Ms. Pierce's properties. We also asked for fees. The attempted quitclaim process forced Ms. Pierce to retain counsel and notify offices. Judge Nguyen looked at me. Miss Pierce, tell me briefly what is at stake for you. My home, I said. My work, my peace, my father's house. If a lien appears because someone says they speak for me, I can lose tenants, I can lose the roof, I can lose the one quiet place I can afford. My mother made a sound, the kind that carries years. She looked at me for the first time. I did not blink. Ray spoke up out of turn. She's dramatic, he said. I wanted to help. She always thinks I'm the villain. The judge tapped her pen once. Mr. Bishop, this is not the time for speeches. She turned to me. Miss Pierce, did you sign any power of attorney? No, I said. Did you ever tell Mr. Bishop he could sign on your behalf? No, Judge Nguyen nodded. And the quitclaim? Kendra handed up the certified rejection and the copy with the mismatched notary block. The judge scanned them, then exhaled through her nose in a way that said she had seen this before and didn't enjoy the frequency. She ruled. She granted me a 3-year civil harassment restraining order. She set stay-away distances of 100 yards from my home, my workplace, and my duplex. She prohibited direct or indirect contact, including through third parties, social media, or postal mail. She included a specific clause. Mr. Bishop was forbidden from contacting any financial institution, title office, or government agency regarding my properties or financial affairs. She ordered him to pay $2,980 in my attorney's fees. She set a review in 6 months for compliance if I wanted it. Then she looked up. The court expects grown adults to handle family without sloganizing it, she said. Love is not a transaction, and urgency is not a cudgel. Miss Pierce followed the law. Mr. Bishop, you will follow this order. Violate it and you will be arrested. The clerk stamped 5 copies. The bailiff handed one to me, one to Ray, one to his lawyer, one to Kendra, and one to the heir that needed to see it. My mother stood small in the back. She did not look at either of us when we filed past. The hallway felt like a throat. But then, a week later, Kendra called me about a new complication. The county recorder's office had received a letter from a notary stating that a man with Ray's name had asked her to pre-stamp documents because it's a family thing. She refused. She kept the voicemail he left when she said no. The recorder forwarded it to us. Kendra asked if I wanted to escalate. I did. We filed a report with the district attorney's fraud unit. I didn't expect handcuffs. I wanted a memo somewhere that said, "This person pushes paper where it doesn't belong." The DA sent a warning letter. They copied me. They copied Ray. I saved it in a growing folder labeled Paper Teeth. Around the same time, Adult Protective Services called me back. I had filed a quiet report on March 11th, not accusing, just describing. APS scheduled a wellness check for my mother. They visited, asked about finances, looked at account access, and offered resources. My mother told them everything was fine and then called me to tell me I was disloyal. I told her I loved her, and that love looks like soft things until it has to look like steel. Spring settled into ordinary days. I changed the locks at my duplex because boundaries are better when they click. I enrolled in the county's property alert program that emails homeowners if a document lists their parcel number. I kept working. I took long walks by the river. I paid my lawyer in 3 chunks, $2,000 the first night, $1,800 2 weeks later, and the rest from a savings account my father started for me when I turned 18 with $50 and a joke about interest. Every payment felt like a door shutting softly and for good. In May, a certified letter arrived at my office. It was from Ray's lawyer, who had transformed into a different kind of adult. The letter contained what he called a retraction for slander of title. It stated that any previous instrument purporting to affect my property was unauthorized and void. It included a sentence that apologized for any confusion. It also included a cashier's check for $8,000 to settle potential civil claims. Kendra called it a not quite apology, and a very useful check. We filed the retraction with the recorder. We made a note. We cashed the check into my lawyer's trust and pulled my fees from it. Money is not justice, but it can be a measure that says a line was crossed and someone had to pay to step back. In June, my mother sent me a photograph of her roses. She did not add words. I sent back a picture of the duplex porch light I'd replaced and the new peephole that made me feel like a guard who also likes the view. 2 days later, she called. She asked if I could help her set up direct deposit for her Social Security into an account that only she controlled. I said yes and met her at the credit union on a Tuesday morning that smelled like coffee and printers. We sat with a clerk who wore a name badge that said Maya. We filled out forms. We walked outside into a light so bright it felt like new paper. My mother started to say something and then didn't. She squeezed my hand, that was enough. But then, in August, a cousin invited me to a barbecue and whispered that Ray was telling people that I lawyered up because I was guilty. I laughed in a way that wasn't laughter. I took a bite of dry burger and thought about how stories travel miles on fumes and still arrive like facts. Later that night, I wrote a short letter to myself and taped it inside my closet again. You did not ruin anything. You refused to be ruined. Fall came. The order worked like a fence that didn't creak. My phone grew silent. My email stopped bracing. My boss kept his ties with oranges and added ones with baseballs. My tenants decorated their windows with paper bats and fake cobwebs that kept catching real leaves. My mother asked if I wanted to come by for Thanksgiving and offered to keep the visit short. I asked if Ray would be there. She said no. I said yes. When I pulled into her driveway, the oleander still tilted like aunts. We ate turkey that dried just enough to make gravy heroic. We washed dishes to the clink of old plates that have seen every fight and still show up. My mother set her dish towel down and said he said love like it was a permission slip, didn't he? Yes, I said, and I gave him a hall pass to leave me alone. She smiled at that, tired but real. She told me she'd joined a church group that talks about boundaries without using the word like a threat. She'd started using autopay for her bills and asked a neighbor to look over a contract before she signed. None of it was dramatic. All of it was change. The 6-month review date on my order came and went without incident, so I asked the court to take it off calendar. We kept the order in place. It sat there like a quiet lighthouse, useful when storms gather, invisible when skies are kind. One more thing I did that felt like love. I wrote my own limited power of attorney. I named my best friend Nadia as the person who could act for me only for medical decisions if I couldn't speak, and only after a doctor said the word incapacitated to a witness and a clock. I recorded it with my doctor and put a copy in my file boxes under the bed. It felt like telling the universe, I will choose my own signature. Months later, in January, a postcard came from Golden Pacific Title. It was generic, a reminder that property tax due dates were near. I smiled and paid mine early. I like the feeling of making the county happy and my future predictable. On the walk back from the mailbox, I saw the neighbor's cat again. She looked like news. I told her that paper can hurt or hold. It depends on who holds the pen. I'm not naive. Paper doesn't fix mothers or men or old hurts. It does, however, define the edges where bad ideas stop at your fence and look at the sign and think twice. The court's order sits framed behind my closet coats, not because I want revenge, but because I wanted a boundary that spoke when my voice got tired. Ray still lives with my mother, for now. He keeps his distance from me and my properties because the order makes choices expensive. He learned, at least for my perimeter, that family is not a lever he gets to pull like a slot machine. When the order expires in 2027, I'll decide then whether to renew. I hope I don't need to. I hope I keep my life small and clear and heavy with receipts. On some nights when the city hums like a machine trying to fall asleep, I take out that sticky note Kendra clipped under the paperclip and I touch the words with my thumb. I think about a table, a blue folder, and the weight of a pen. I think about how I signed something else under a brass lamp with a woman who knows how paper can stand guard. I think about a deputy's knock and a man reading words he didn't expect to see. Love should look like open hands. But when it doesn't, it looks like ink, distance, and a line you don't cross without paying. And that line, once drawn, is a kind of peace I trust.